Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to talk about the movies. Welcome to episode 27 of The Movie Proposal. I am Skye Jitani. With me is Josh Lindsay.
Hello.
And Jason Rugg.
Hello.
It's been a while since we've been here to talk about anything because I've been traveling a ton and we've just been busy, and you know, most of the movies that have come out have been slow, small. I haven't gone to many movies.
I have not either until recently, but I've seen a lot of Netflix. I've actually seen a lot of movies. They've all been HBO, Amazon, Netflix.
Well, I had a long overseas trip to Asia and watched not as many. Here's the good news. I got to fly business class.
Get to sleep.
I got to sleep. I had like a lay flat bed. So I didn't end up watching as many movies as I had in the past on these flights, but I did get some.
Good and bad to it.
Good and bad, good and bad. I'd much rather have the bed than But let's start out with something old. This is when we talk about an old movie prior to the millennium that we want to re-recommend to our audience because we've seen it recently or it's come to mind or whatever. So what have you got, Josh?
All right, this one came to mind because our something new deals with sibling rivalries, and so the movie I picked was Big Night.
Big Night.
Big Night. You know this? Do you know this
No,
one?
N-I-G-H-D or K-N-I?
So big, B-I-G, then night, like nighttime, going to bed. You know, nighttime. So Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub.
I have no idea who that is.
Tony, he starred in the show Monk. You would recognize him if you saw him.
Okay.
But Stanley Tucci's famous. He does a lot of big parts, and but also Isabella Rossellini, Minnie Driver, Campbell Scott, Ian Holm. It's about two brothers, and they're from Italy, and I think this is like the 1950s or something like that, and they have an Italian restaurant. It's struggling, and they basically put everything on the survival of their restaurant on this one night, this big night where they're going to have a big feast, and a restaurant reviewer is going to come in. But across the street is another Italian restaurant run by Ian Holm, and he's, I believe, also from Italy, but he caters to the American culture, and like he gives them what Americans want, which is not true.
Oh, so an Americanized Italian.
Yeah, kind of like it's Pizza Hut
it's
versus
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden. There you go. There you go. So, if you love food, you got to see this film. It's a fantastic display of Italian cooking and so forth. The actors are great.
How old is this film?
96.
Okay.
But it's funny. My brother-in-law hates this movie.
Wow.
And I love it. It's critically acclaimed.
I've never even heard of it.
It's a little slower. There's not a lot of action. It's very much relational type drama, and so there's not really like a clear bad guy, and so it's a little bit different pacing. But the actors are fantastic.
Is it one of those movies that ends and you're like, really? That's the end? Or it's like, wow, great, satisfying, like how I feel after a heavy Italian meal.
Well, okay, it would be the first, but I wouldn't respond that way. It'd be like, oh, that was interesting, you know, like in a more positive way, but not a big surprise. Ta-da!
Not surprised, but just like satisfying.
I thought it was satisfying.
Well, clearly you're recommending it, but this is apparently a controversial movie.
Well, I brought it up because I know it is controversial because it comes up almost every time I see my brother-in-law. And
oh, he's holding a grudge.
Wow.
Did you recommend it to him?
I think he can't comprehend that I like this movie. But I'm not the only one. There's lots of people who love this movie. So.
Jason, can you look it up on Rotten Tomatoes?
It got 96.
96?
Yes.
Oh. Well, this is going to come back when we do our Something Blue segment.
Oh. Okay.
So just remember that.
Get ready.
Yeah, get ready. Okay, my something old, 1988, A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh, okay.
Which is one of the movies I did watch on my flight because I mean I've seen it before, obviously. Right. But okay, a couple of things before anybody starts going on social media and getting upset with me. Number one, yes, the movie is rated R. Number two, yes, there is some sexually explicit content. Not critical to the plot of the film. Easy to kind of just fast forward through whatever you want to do. But it's John Cleese is in it, and Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Kline, and Michael Palin.
Yes.
So you got two former Monty Python actors in it. It's about a diamond heist in London, and it happens early on in the film, and then how all the participants in the diamond heist are basically backstabbing one another afterwards because one of them gets arrested. John Cleese plays the lawyer. But Kevin Kline got I think an Oscar for this role.
Really?
Yeah, like a Best Supporting Actor.
Okay.
And it's very unusual to get that for a supporting actor in a comedy.
Right, yeah.
But absolutely hysterical. I mean, it is still one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
Did one of the Monty Python guys write it or direct it? Or
yeah, let me see.
It was written by John Cleese and Charles Crichton.
All right. So Cleese starred and also directed it.
And Michael Palin plays this very quiet. He's the getaway driver, but he has a very severe stutter.
I remember this now.
And he's an animal lover. And it turns out that the only witness to the crime is this little old woman who has 3 little Yorkie terriers. And so he's been assigned the job of killing this witness so that she can't testify in the trial. But every time he tries to kill her, he only accidentally kills one of her dogs. And he's like severely traumatized by this. But there's a scene in the movie where Kevin Kline is trying to get Michael Palin to tell him some important information, but Michael Palin is so distraught and his stutter is so severe he can't get it out. And so, I mean, it's just, it's fall off your chair funny. I'm sure there's all kinds of things about it now 20, 30 years later that are, politically incorrect and socially wrong and on, but I don't care. It is just absolutely fantastically funny. And there are so few good comedies like that anymore.
Right.
So yeah, Fish Called Wanda.
I'll have to check it out again.
You do have to check it out again. And no offense, I'm probably going to bypass yours.
I don't want to do a great job selling it. Come on, 96%.
I want to talk to your brother-in-law.
It's a drama romance.
It's
categorized as a drama romance.
Oh, really?
About Italian food.
The Big Night, whatever it's
drama
called.
romance? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Around Italian food.
I don't know if I ever want to see a romance with Stanley Tucci, but that's something else. Okay, something new. We went and saw the big blockbuster that came out this weekend, Thor: Ragnarok. Josh, for anybody on the planet who doesn't know what this movie is, can you summarize or read the summary or whatever you want?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's Thor #3,
and it's Marvel #17.
Yes, and.
I have the description.
Oh, you got it? You're right. You read it. Yes,
okay.
Imprisoned, the almighty Thor finds himself in a lethal gladiatorial contest against Hulk, his former ally. Thor must fight for survival and race against time to prevent the all-powerful Hela from destroying his home and Asgardian civilization.
All right, that's a bad description.
Very bad, but that's the official description.
Yeah, that's not well written for a couple of reasons. Number one, it says imprisoned, the almighty Thor. If he's almighty, why is he imprisoned?
Yeah.
And then they used all-powerful to describe Hela.
And it kind of blows the whole Hulk thing.
Yeah. Whatever. But that is the description that they have on the site, so there it is.
Okay.
All right. So, Josh, do you have a proposal for us?
I do. So I saw this with my son, my 10-year-old son. I propose that Thor Ragnarok does what all superhero films should do, makes us all want to be heroes.
All right.
When we walked out of the theater, my son Quinn, we were talking about the movie, and he said, "Dad, with the part where Thor commands the thunder and his eyes light up and the lightning surrounds him, and he just starts hammering people. He doesn't have the hammer anymore, but he just starts beating up on people.
Kind of is the hammer.
Right. He becomes the hammer. He's like, I just wanted to be him. I wanted to do that, and I totally understood what he meant, because when I was his age, and you're watching, Superman, or even when I was in college, I watched The Matrix. I left the theaters wanting to do exactly. I wanted to fly. I had a cape when I was Superman. I was flying around the house with that.
Did you have a trench coat when you were in college?
No.
Sunglasses?
But I wanted to run up walls and dodge bullets, you just wanted to reenact it, right? It just made you come alive and this is awesome, right?
Did anyone offer you 2 different pills?
No.
Well, I mean in college.
In college, it's entirely possible.
But anyway, I got what he was saying when he said, I wanted to be that guy. And not all superhero films do that, as we've discussed in the past. And so that's why I loved this movie, Thor. We laughed. It was exciting. It was a good story. But you really were rooting for and wanted to be Thor, especially when he just was raining down these guys at the end. But that was my proposal.
All right. I'm going to riff on your proposal a little bit. I propose that Thor Ragnarok does what all good superhero movies ought to do: make you want to be Taika Watiti.
And who is Taika Watiti?
Taika Watiti is the director, and I think he has a writing credit on this film as well. and he's one of my favorites now. He is just one of my favorites. He's a Kiwi. He's a New Zealander. He's the guy who made What We Do in the Shadows, which we talked about I don't know how many episodes ago. The vampire mockumentary, which is absolutely hysterical. But here's what amazed me about this movie. I agree with everything you said about just the superhero genre and how it fits all that. I think though it even goes a step beyond that, in that it's really funny. And after 3 Thor movies, and the first 2 were, let's be honest, not the best Marvel movies. They were fine, but they weren't great. But after 3 Marvel or Thor movies and 16 other Marvel movies, you'd think this genre is just paint by numbers, right? It is so well established. There's nothing new that can really be done with it. Now they're just raking in the cash and they're phoning it in. And Taika Waititi took that kind of tired genre and invigorated it with just an amazing amount of humor and weird references. Like there's that scene, this is all spoilers, and if you don't know that by now, you shouldn't be listening. But there's this scene, if you remember, after Thor gets captured and he's strapped into that chair and he wakes up
what you're talking about.
And he goes through like this weird tunnel psychedelic rainbow, and it's a totally out of Willy Wonka.
Yeah. And they play the music,
and they even use the music from it. And like you're like how but it was so well done, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved. I only wished it was longer.
Yeah.
And there was a bit more humor to have fun with. If I have any critique, it's that I feel like there's so much marketing now that goes ahead of these films that there wasn't a lot that surprised me when I actually sat down and watched it, because you see so much of it in the marketing leading up to the movie and all the clips and all the interviews and all the behind the scenes footage, and it just goes on. And I get it. They've spent $200 million on a movie. They need to market it aggressively. So it's more a critique of the marketing giving away a little too much rather than... I did appreciate, however, in the trailers, there's that scene where Thor, like Quinn mentioned, your son, he's got the lightning all kind of, and his eyes are glowing, and there's a scene where you can see that in the trailer, but when you watch it in the real movie,
they removed, or they put it in.
So in the movie, Thor gets one of his eyes gouged out. So by the end, he's got a patch over his eye like his father, Odin. Anthony Hopkins, but they don't show that in the trailer because he has both his eyes glowing with lightning, but in the real movie it's only one eye, and I thought, okay, that's clever. I'm glad they did that.
They also did it when Thor and Hulk are jumping in the air. In the trailer, it's just their 2 bodies jumping in the air. In the movie, he's covered in lightning.
Yeah, you don't see that. I agree. Yeah, I appreciated they at least hid some things from us in the trailer, but I think they need to do a little bit more.
Did you know Hela was his sister from the trailers?
That leaked out.
Okay, I did not read that.
Yeah, it leaked out in an interview. It was kind of made the rounds because I think it was an Australian news station was interviewing some of the actors, and the dumb reporter said something that Chris Helmsworth was like, what'd you think when you found out that like Hela's gonna be your sister? And then he's like, you can't say that. And so he got all in his case because of this reporter letting it out.
Whoops.
Yeah, but I kind of did know that.
Okay, I did not know that.
But I don't know if that made that huge difference.
So Taika Waititi also did. I brought this up.
Yeah, the wildebeest.
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah.
So he uses. I like it when directors do this, when they have similar actors. And so I was looking for some of this. I was actually looking for some of the actors from What We Do in the Shadows, but I didn't find them. But I did find was similar actors from Hunt for the Wilder People, which was Sam. No, wait. The guy from Jurassic Park. What's his name?
Yeah.
His name's Sam, right?
Sam something.
I was going to say Sam Raimi, but that's the director.
No.
Anyway, but then in Hunt for the Wilder People, there is a social worker she's just a real tough lady, and she is Jeff Goldblum's sidekick.
Right.
And she was great. So you really need to see Hunt for the Wilder People now.
So I don't know if you know this.
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, yeah, you're right. Remember there's a scene in the film, in Thor, where Thor comes back to Asgard, and there's a play being put on about Thor and Loki. Right. But then you know who the actors were in that? Yes. So Loki was played by
Matt Damon.
And Thor was played by
Hemsworth's brother.
Yeah, right? Liam Hemsworth.
Okay.
And then Odin in that was played by
Sam Neill.
Yeah. So there's your Wilder People reference. So yeah, it was Taika Waititi. I will go see anything this guy does, and I got some great news. Awesome news.
Really?
Yeah. You know what I'm about to say. So during one of the press interviews for the film, Taika Watiti confirmed that they're making a sequel to What We Do in the Shadows.
Really?
But it's about the werewolves. and the movie's called Werewolves. Like we are apostrophe R-E, wolves. And there's no news on when it'll be done or when it'll come out, but I am there. I don't care. It will be fantastic. I love, first of all, I like actors or directors that can move between genres.
Yeah.
But yet there's something that is consistently Watiti about all of his films.
Yeah.
And it's probably his sense of humor. He's definitely got a screw loose, but in the best possible way. So I'm really impressed that after 17 movies, you know, we saw Spider-Man this summer, which seemed to be a pretty fresh take for Marvel.
It was great.
And then again with Thor, a very fresh take. And then in February, they have Black Panther coming out.
Which I think looks great.
And it looks different than the stuff they've done before. So, hey, as long as they can keep pulling this off, I say keep going.
Are you going to go see Justice League?
I don't know. I may wait for the review. I am so bothered by the whole thing. The only little bit of hope I have is Joss Whedon came in.
Oh, is it Whedon?
Whedon.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, he came in, and apparently the rumor is that he reshot like 80% of the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
He didn't have that much time.
Oh, who was?
I think you're.
Oh, I'm thinking of Han Solo.
Yeah, you're thinking.
No. But he did come in and change things up.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping improves it.
It was mostly filmed when he came.
But
in.
I'm worried
It
he's
was
just
mostly
going to be polishing
But
a turd.
editing it can do a lot.
Yeah.
I know.
Which the really interesting thing is that there were rumors it was going to be about 3 hours, like 6 months ago, and they've officially announced it's going to be the shortest Justice League movie so far. Out of Superman, all those, it's going to be 2 hours and 1 minute.
Okay.
So it's actually way shorter. So maybe they've trimmed it up and.
Usually I want the Band-Aid ripped off quickly. Yes. So maybe that's all they're doing is let's just get this done.
Well,
as
a
quick
lot
as we
of
can.
the promo stuff I keep coming across is all about, it's going to be sunshine and it's better, different attitude, and we learned our lesson, and it's not going to be so dark. And
I don't want film universes that appeal to me by saying we learned our lesson.
there was literally that is literally one of the promos.
I know.
Yeah,
but that's sad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see it just to be able to rip on it.
Jason, did you see Thor?
Yeah.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any closing thoughts?
I think my favorite line from the whole movie was a reference to What We Do in the Shadows, and that was when he has that big poking stick with 3 pieces on it. He goes, if 3 vampires clustered together.
You know what? I remember that. I didn't even pick up on that. That's great.
It's 3 vampires, 3 flatmates.
Oh, I was hoping there was going to be something about sandwiches, but
no, that wasn't in there.
No. Okay.
So moving on to something borrowed.
Okay, something borrowed. We were debating earlier what to use for this, and we're borrowing something from me, which doesn't seem like it seems like a violation of policy.
I signed off on this.
Okay.
I didn't.
So I posted something on my social media feeds actually earlier this morning. I've been doodling in my little notebook, and I've been taking snapshots of those doodles and posting them as tweet things for people to discuss. And I did one about 4 different definitions of the word church. And the reason I brought this up is because one of the themes toward the end of the Thor movie is Asgard, or Asperg, as Jeff Goldblum says, is being destroyed by Hela and this other creature, Surtur. And Anthony Hopkins shows up in some kind of vision ghost form and tells Thor it's all right because Asgard is not a place, it's a people. And then the mission became, okay, we got to rescue the people, almost like a Noah's Ark kind of situation, and get them out of there. And I posted this on my Facebook page, and the first comment someone put up there, and I'm sorry I don't have his name, was, oh, that's like the point of the Thor movie about the church. Because in my thing, I talk about what is the right definition of church, and there's 4 different ways we define church in the English language. We can mean a building, an event, an organization, or a community. And like the Asgard definition of being a community, a group of people, is kind of what my argument was trying to be in the New Testament understanding of church. But we often screw this up in our own thinking. And I know most Christians probably realize church is not a building. And those with even moderate amount of biblical knowledge realize that church is not an event. It's not just Sunday morning worship. But I think a lot of people get the third and fourth definitions conflated.
Between the people and the organization?
Yeah. So we often, when we talk about church, we often talk about it as the budgets and the buildings and the staff and the programs and the organization. Like I'm giving my money to the church, meaning I'm giving it to this 501c3 organization. And then when we talk about the mission of the church, we usually think about the mission of the organization. Mm-hmm. And we don't usually think about it in an actual New Testament framework, which is as the people of God, redeemed by him, living in communion with Christ and one another. And that's a very different definition than just the organization or the framework. So we could talk about this more, but I think it's worth diagnosing in your own head, how do you generally conceive of or imagine the church when you're even using that word? And how would getting the right definition shift the way you think or engage or view your own role in it all?
Well, I'll give an example for me personally. So I go, my wife and I and our whole family attend a church. We really like it, but we realize it's not perfect and we've got our frustrations with it and so forth. And but we're involved, we serve, we go every Sunday, and there's a community of families that we have relationships with. I'm friends with the dads primarily, the wives are friends, the kids know each other and so forth. And within the last year, a group of those families left the church to go somewhere else because they were frustrated with the organization. And my take on it was, well, I'm also frustrated with the organization, but my church is this community, this group of people. And so I was hurt that they were leaving what I saw as the church and leaving us behind as like, oh my gosh, now we've got to deal with.
But are you still connected to all those people? Not as much.
I mean, because some of our kids go to school together, so we see them, or we might have other reasons to relate. But I would naturally see the other families more often because we do go to that physical building, and there are things that the organization puts on that we attend. And then we meet. We have a small group. Like we now meet on a monthly basis as families. But those families who left the church are involved in other things, so they don't meet with us monthly anymore. So is that what you're asking? Yeah,
it gets complicated. I remember years ago when for a brief season, I was in charge of the small group ministry at my church, and I'm trying to connect with all the leaders of the different small groups and figure out what's going on. And I found that there was one small group officially connected to our church because the leaders went to our church, but there were six households represented in this small group, and they all went to different churches.
Oh,
and yet they considered their group, that was really their spiritual community. And so you go, okay, well, what's the church here?
Right.
How does this work? But from a leadership point of view, I think it's a real challenge for pastors because when we get our paychecks from a church and our job is the church and our community is the church, we can begin to think about the church as the advancement of the organization that we work for. And that's not the church. We tend to validate people when they're engaged in quote unquote a church activity or a church program, and yet that's not an actual definition of what the Church of Jesus Christ is doing in any given area. Does that make sense?
I think so. But that would be hard if that's your job.
It is. It's really hard.
Because you kind of have to justify why you're getting paid.
Exactly.
And if it's coming directly from this organization, then it should be like, well, what's the exchange here?
Exactly. Yeah. So, one thing we need to think through as leaders is in any given time, place, culture, you have a plethora of resources available to you in order to accomplish the mission that Christ has given you, to make disciples or, advance the gospel, whatever you want to define the mission as. But the moment we narrowly define that mission as the advancement of my institution, you're going to be limiting what you think God is really wanting to do in an area. So you might measure, for example, how many people show up on Sunday or how many people are involved in small groups under my church's banner, but is that an accurate representation of what the church is actually doing? When you have no idea what the people, quote unquote, in your church are doing Monday through Saturday. You have no idea how they're advancing the kingdom in schools and offices and neighborhoods because it's not under your church's umbrella. And so if my calling is really to equip and shepherd God's people and the church, meaning the people, shouldn't I be more aware of what's actually going on beyond the confines of the 501c3 organization that I call my church? That's the challenge. Is that when we, especially as leaders, when we define the church organizationally, we're actually blind to an awful lot of what the church is actually doing and what God is actually doing with his people.
Is there a way to fix that?
I fixed it by leaving staff.
There you have it, folks. For every pastor listening.
I remember when it was announced that I was going to be leaving the staff, this very nice woman came up to me in the foyer of our church, and she took my hand and she said, I'm just so sad to be hearing that you're leaving ministry. And I had to tell her, I won't say her name, but I had to tell her, I'm not leaving ministry. Right. I'm just leaving the church staff, or any church staff for that matter. But, to be completely frank, I feel like a far more effective pastor now that I'm not on staff at a church. And that's not to indict all pastors on staffs at church. It just means you almost have dual loyalties, two masters when you're on staff at a church, because you have the church, the people, and then you have the institution.
Yeah.
And as I tweeted out earlier, an organization or institutional church can survive if people don't meet the risen Christ there, but an institutional church cannot survive if people do not meet the budget.
Right.
Right. So there's your conflicted loyalties. Am I really wanting to help people grow in their faith and live out that faith in their lives? Or am I more interested in making sure this institution maintains itself? And in an ideal situation, those things should not be in conflict. One should help the other.
Sure.
But increasingly, I think institutions are actually in conflict with the spiritual health of their own people. And that's where pastors need to have a real gut check and ask themselves, what are we committed to? And that's exactly what Thor had to do the gut check on at the end, is do I want to save this place
or the people?
Right. And ultimately his quote unquote heavenly father told him, save the people.
Man, way to bring it home.
Thank you. How about that? That'll preach.
And that's why you need to see Thor.
Right. And have a discussion with your church staff.
Well, hey, if I was on staff, I'd be suggesting we do a group outing. We all go see.
That's
together,
right. Right. Yeah. Okay. And then you got to sit down in a small group and ask, what is my Asgard? Or am I just trying to guard my ass? Right?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be here all night. Don't forget to tip your server. Okay. Something blue.
Something blue.
This is a segment where we talk about something we saw recently that blew our minds or that blew chunks.
I'm going to go with 2 again.
2?
Well, blue mind, blue chunks.
Oh, you're going both.
Yeah.
All right.
I've just seen so much stuff.
Okay.
And we haven't had a podcast.
You can't keep it in, huh?
All right, I'm going to go with the blue chunks. I saw The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, the new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't going to be good. I knew it going into it.
I saw that on a long flight, too.
Did you?
Not recently, but yeah, I did.
Often when you know a film's not going to be bad, but you have a reason to want to see it. I wanted to see it because Denzel Washington's in it, and it's a Western, and they're like, okay, it's a summer blockbuster. It's got to be somewhat entertaining.
Chris Pratt's in it.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy guy.
Yeah, who else is in it? I don't think, those are the 2 big stars.
I think those are the biggest, but they're recognizable faces throughout.
Ethan Hawke.
Oh, yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
I don't know. I was so disappointed. And I went in with low expectations.
That's saying something.
I know.
So what was it that didn't even meet your low expectations?
Just because it was like it was so Hollywood Western. It was embarrassing. It was like, were they even trying? And I just listened to a podcast. I think what ruined it for me was listening to a podcast on Unforgiven and why that's such a great Western. And it's like, these guys weren't even trying. And these are all great actors. Even the guy who directed it, didn't he do Training Day or something like that? You're going to let us know, but
yeah, Training Day, Olympus Has Fallen.
Well, that was terrible. Olympus Has Fallen, but Training Day is is an incredible movie. So very disappointed. Some are stupid.
So don't bother.
Don't bother. All right.
By the way, can you tell us what was it on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah,
because I didn't like it either. I saw it last year. Yeah. Okay. What's your second one?
Okay, this is an HBO limited series, The Night Of. So, and I forgot.
You got another night going here. The big night,
right, big night, and the
night of.
And I didn't write this down. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to look this one up too, Jason. But this is a story of a college kid who is accused of a murder, and you're 95% sure he didn't do it.
Okay.
And he gets representation. This is in New York City. He gets representation by this attorney who's kind of like the sleaze of attorneys. Are you pulling up by chance?
What was it called again?
The Night Of. He, it's this guy who's in a lot of Joel and Ethan Coen brother films.
John Turturro?
Yeah. Is that how you say it? John Turturro?
I guess.
And it stars Riz Ahmed. He's the
from Rogue One.
From Rogue One.
Yes.
The pilot.
So I think it's 8 episodes, and it's about him getting arrested and then proving his innocence. It is so well done, and I was so engrossed, and it had a very satisfying ending, but it was not an ending I could have predicted. So it's one of those endings where it was like surprising yet satisfying, or unpredictable, you know, or not predictable, inevitable.
Inevitable.
It was inevitable, but I was surprised by it.
Is this on Netflix now?
No, it's on HBO, which is the problem. But if you can get your hands on it, the night of, definitely worth checking out.
Blew your mind.
It did. I loved it.
Okay.
The Magnificent Seven. I got 63 on Rotten Tomatoes.
63.
It's a lot better than you'd think.
See, you can't always trust Rotten Tomatoes.
And this is my point that I'm finally coming to now for my blue segment. So I'm flying home from Seoul, 14-hour flight, in business class, thoroughly enjoying myself. And I'm looking through the movies, and there's one of the new, like, most recommended movies, blah, 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 is The Big Sick.
Oh, that's with the
Pakistani comedian Kumail Nanjiani.
He's on Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
It's another HBO series.
So, and I'm going, all right. I watched the trailer. It looks charming and funny. And he's a Muslim Pakistani, and it's autobiographical. Like, this is kind of the telling of the story of how he actually met and married his wife, who's a white American woman. And I'm going, oh, this is like almost my story, right?
Okay.
Because, I mean, I'm not Muslim, but Jatani, Nanjiani, you know, there's... my father's from Pakistan before it was Pakistan. I'm like, okay, he married a white woman. We got, this whole thing's going. It looks good. I decided not to watch it on the flight, because I think this is a movie my wife and I would probably watch together. Okay. And therefore, I'm not going to watch it here, because this is date night potential, right? I watched like Magnificent Seven and all that garbage on the flight. So the other night, we're home alone. We got rid of all of our children through various machinations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we decided to watch a movie together. And so I said, hey, how about The Big Sick? And she sees the preview, so great, we'll watch it. We watched it. And look it up. It's like 98% positive.
Wow.
Right? I'm like, this is a slam dunk.
Average rating 8.2.
Yeah. Wow. Slam dunk. Right?
Yeah.
When it was over, we were both like, eh.
Oh. Was it funny at all?
Here's the problem with it. There's multiple, I think. Number one is, there are funny parts, and every one of them was in the trailer.
Yeah, that stinks.
Ray Romano is in it, and Holly Hunt. And the other comedians,
parents, right?
Yeah, they play the girl's parents. The girl ends up, this is not spoiling anything, the girl ends up getting sick and in a coma. They break up. She's sick and in a coma, so he comes back, and the parents come in, and they kind of develop this relationship while she's in a coma. And of course, the underlying tension in the movie is that his Muslim family is trying to get him married to a Muslim Pakistani girl. They're, you know, the arranged marriage kind of thing. And so if his parents find out that he's been dating a white girl, it's going to be a problem. And But I didn't think it was that funny, number one. Number two, no offense to Kumail Nanjiani, he's not a very good actor. He just, like, the whole time, the whole movie, he just kind of looks surprised. like, I don't know if he's surprised because his girlfriend's in a coma, or he's surprised because he's in a feature release movie. Like,
maybe so. He is funny in Silicon Valley, but that's...
But he's probably, someone else is writing that.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I didn't think it was that fun. And half the comedy is, I'm a Muslim. And terrorism. Right. I'm not a terrorist. You know, it's like, it was... So, and then at the end, like, it wasn't a satisfying end. It was just like,
I'm not going to see it.
I could not believe it got 98%.
Okay, I just want to ask, because I'm not going to see it, and this is going to spoil the movie, but do they get together in the movie?
Okay. They do.
Because they obviously get together in real life.
Right. Yeah. But it's not like... So here, I'm just going to ruin it for everybody. I'm just going to ruin it. She obviously survives the coma, right? It isn't like she dies and he marries the nurse, right? So she survives the coma, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with him because, again, they broke up before the coma. And she's like, look, you're fine. I was asleep the whole time. I'm glad your feelings for me have changed because I've been in a coma, but I woke up and I still hate you, kind of thing, right? You're like, oh, that's rough. So he moves to New York, and he's doing a stand-up routine in New York. And the way they met is when he was doing a routine. It's the movie set in Chicago. When he does a routine in Chicago at the beginning of the movie, there's some woman in the crowd yells something at him. And he's like, oh, that's right. And that's how they meet, because it's her.
Oh, okay.
And so he's doing his routine in New York, and then she yells something at him, and it turns out it's her. And then it's just like, oh, she's back. And then it cuts to the credits, and you see the photographs of the real wedding of him and his wife. And I'm like,
that sounds really sweet.
It does, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
I mean, don't watch the trailer if you don't want to have all the funny parts in there already. I just wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
I was not impressed. This was not like When Harry Met Sally kind of, what a great romantic comedy.
Is it like the Pakistani My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
No. It's not even that funny, because it doesn't poke that much fun at Pakistanis.
Oh, okay.
The way that one does of Greeks.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It is funny, heartfelt, and intelligent.
According to who?
Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, that's what it's listed on.
All I'm saying is, when you say 98%, my expectations are pretty dang high. Right. And I could maybe see this being a 60%er. Maybe. Like, if you are really hard up for laughter.
See, I thought Magnificent Seven was 63% was too high.
Yeah.
Which I don't usually like Rotten Tomatoes. I usually go for IMDb, which seems more accurate to what you're saying. 7.7. Okay. It's a little bit more like, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was paced well. I don't think it was written super well. I thought it was, yeah.
We got it.
I'd be surprised if he's in another romantic comedy. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
All right. Do we have anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thanks for joining us this week. We'd love to hear what you think about Thor. We'd love to know what you think about church. Maybe. Tell us if you've seen any of these other movies. We'll be back hopefully in a couple weeks with more. We got some big stuff coming out. We got Justice League. What else is coming out?
Star Wars is coming out.
Star Wars, well, that's in December.
Wonder's coming out. I'm going to take my kids
Wonder,
to see
yeah,
that
we're
one.
probably going to go see that as well. So if you have suggestions for movies that you think we should review, whether we see them or not, we'd be happy to review them.
I love to share opinions of movies I haven't seen.
We do it all the time. So until next time, you can kiss this episode goodbye.
Don't call me stupid.
Oh, right! To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people! I've known sheep that could outwit you.